Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Activism, politics in a cold place, and a whole lot of media publicity. What is Greenpeace all about today? Is it a smug and self-promoting bully or a brave environmentalist group? Opinions vary, and at the very center of the debate surrounding organizations such as Greenpeace is the question whether they have the right to operate outside the law. To Crosstalk Greenpeace, I'm joined by Alexander Mercouris in London. He is a writer on legal affairs and an analyst. And in Washington, we cross to Mark Morano. He is the publisher of Climate Depot and a former staffer of the U.S. Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. All right, gentlemen, Crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want. Alexander, if I can go to you first in London, I was reading the Daily Mail a couple of days ago, and they had an article about Greenpeace and Russia and the Arctic oil platform. And I must say that the article was rather pro-Greenpeace and very anti-Russia. And then I read the 70 or so comments at the end of the article, and my goodness, the article was very much out of touch with whoever wrote the article and the editorial line of that publication. A lot of people thought that Greenpeace has gone too far. It's a publicity stunt. They made sure there were many different kinds of nationalities on that operation to get maximum media effect. What do you think about this? I mean, because Greenpeace is doing this for publicity. Obviously, to what degree it's doing it for science and environmentalism, we can discuss that. Go ahead.
Yes, well, Greenpeace is a direct action organisation. They've been doing these sort of things for a very, very long time, way back into the 1970s. And I think it's true to say that it's always been controversial. An awful lot of people, both within and outside the ecological movement, are sceptical about some of the things that Greenpeace does. And I think some of the things that you probably saw, some of the comments you saw to that Daily Mail article reflect that. Having said that, it is, if you look, it has always seen itself as being at the vanguard of the ecological campaigning, and what it did in the Arctic with the Gazprom platform is consistent with that. And I don't think this is the first time Greenpeace has come in for this sort of criticism. Perhaps what is rather more surprising is that the Daily Mail should support Greenpeace rather than Russia. But that's another. Well, should support Greenpeace on this occasion. Usually the Daily Mail isn't very keen on Greenpeace, as far as I know.
Well, I can say the Daily Mail is very rarely keen on Russia. Mark, if I can go to you, I mean, again, you know, Greenpeace, it seems that in popular perception now, popular perception is that it is more of an action group, political action group, and less an environmental group.
Yes, it's chiefly known in the last couple of decades now as just an environmental pressure group whose basically sole existence at this point are cheap publicity stunts and this kind of what you'd call, you know, you could almost border on eco-terror is the phrase I would use, or just trespassing and law-breaking. You know, just in August, they went and destroyed golden rice crops in the Philippines. They destroyed a whole trial test of them. They don't have the concept of property rights. They don't have the concept of legality. The former co-founding member, Patrick Moore, the ecologist, has come out and basically said Greenpeace is acting immoral. And he left the organization back in the 80s because Greenpeace at that point was opposed to chlorinated water, some of the greatest public health advancements. So I think given what's happened with Greenpeace, it's almost become, even in our pop culture, it's becoming more and more sort of the butt of a joke. It's known as an extreme organization among the environmental pressure groups. It's probably known as one of the most extreme, next to some of, you know, the other ones like the Animal Liberation Front and all that. But it's getting out there, and I think what Russia has done here is send a very clear signal that they're going to play a no-nonsense game with Greenpeace. Perhaps the pirate charges are a little bit much, but certainly not the other charges, the trespassing and violations. And it's very interesting to see Greenpeace sweat here. Let's just hope that what happened with France a few years back, France did, I guess, sunk the original ship that Greenpeace had, but then they were forced by some tribunal to pay $8 million to pay for it. Let's hope that doesn't happen with Russia. Stick to your guns here.
Alexander, I mean, one of the things, I mean, I guess kind of all of us are kind of children of Greenpeace. When I look at our ages here, I mean, I have nothing against, Greenpeace stopping people killing baby seals and protecting dolphins and porpoises. I mean, we all like that, okay, because we think that's senseless here. But isn't this really just a promotion? Now, you have to go to the next extreme to get more money from donors. It makes you feel good inside that, you're helping these people that are helping baby seals, essentially.
Well, can I just say, I think we should be careful what language is used. I don't think what happened in the Arctic is eco-terrorism or any sort of terrorism, and I think we should be very precise about this. Now, I agree the Russian authorities felt very strongly that they need to make a very strong point here, and one can entirely see why. Development of the Arctic is very much in Russia's economic interests. Russia is entirely within its rights legally to do what it is doing in the Arctic, and there's no question at all, in my opinion, that what Greenpeace did is it broke the law. And Greenpeace does regularly, deliberately break the law. And I'm not certainly someone who generally countenances breaking the law. Having said that, Greenpeace generally has been fairly careful to balance, to know how far to go with these sort of things. And I feel that with this particular incident in the Arctic, it again went perhaps further than it should have done legally, but it didn't really do anything particularly violent or extremely criminal. And I think, on the other side, I think the Russian authorities understand that perfectly well, which is why I think each side now having made its point, there will come a solution, and we will probably see the charges reduced, possibly these people pleading guilty to these lesser charges, and then this particular incident will close and we will move on.
Mark, I think it's very interesting.
That's my own personal feeling.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. But Mark, I think another part of the story that is so missed in mainstream media, and I haven't seen it really reported in any depth at all, is that Greenpeace did this in August 2012 also. And that time, on the platform, they got almost no resistance. The oil workers there didn't know what to do. There wasn't much security at all. And they were there for 15 hours with their posters and everything like that, and then they finally left of their own volition. And, well, there's a learning curve here. If they come and try to do that again, we will show them what they can expect. And I think this is part of the thing. If I go to Mark here, I think this is part of the strategy as well, Mark, because this is what happened before will not be repeated again. And, as was pointed out, this is a very important strategic industry for Russia. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, well, oil is strategic for everyone at this point. And I think I want to agree with Alexander. I'm not alleging what they did here on this platform with Ecoterra. I'm referring to more what the co-founder Patrick Moore said, what they did at the golden rice crops in the Philippines in August. That is more along the lines of Ecoterra. But yes, I mean, what Greenpeace is, they're getting a curve here. What they've tried to do over the decades is pick cheap, easy, politically expedient targets where they're not going to get a lot of blowback. And I don't think they counted on Russia. I don't think they counted on your government being prepared and doing this to them. And I think Alexander's probably right again, and that the charges will probably be dropped, or at least they'll plead to lesser charges here. And I don't think the piracy is going to hold. But I think the idea of the message behind what Greenpeace is doing is what Patrick Moore, the founding member, has said. This is an anti-human agenda. Oil is the lifeblood of our modern civilization. Greenpeace is on record as trying to stop carbon-based energy, fossil fuels in the developing world where 1.6 or so billion people don't have running water, electricity, don't have access to this. This is the real question. Why are wealthy white environmentalists, and by the way, a whole coalition of minority groups have accused Greenpeace and other environmental groups of being largely white and being essentially exclusionary racist organizations. Why are they denying carbon-based energy, the lifeblood of modern developed world, to the people at barely subsistence level? And I think That's the larger question here. Sure, it's a cheap publicity stunt to jump on a Russian oil rig and make this point, but why are they against oil? And how does this do for the powerless people in the developing world who don't have the voices, don't have running water, don't have electricity, have high infant mortality rates, have short life expectancy? This is where Greenpeace is on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of morality.
Alexander, if I can go back to you, I mean, it's again, I mean, it's kind of a cheap stunt because these are pictures. When you see these pictures of the oil rig and you know, and you have the activists, this is how they generate money, isn't it? This is what they get from their donors.
Well, of course, I mean, that is the nature of an organisation like this sort. I mean, a direct action organisation has to perform direct action if it is going to continue to get support and continue to get money. And, I mean, there are a lot of criticisms of what Greenpeace does. A lot of people feel that Greenpeace does overstep the mark, and, in fact, that the reactions that it provokes are actually negative for the ecological movement generally. I think there's 2 points I want to make. Firstly, you were absolutely right to point out to the previous incident. The Russian authorities are not going to allow people like Greenpeace to enter the Arctic and harass the people who are doing their work there. That's absolutely clear, and that's what the Russian authorities were setting out to say on this occasion, and they've done it very, very convincingly. And I think Greenpeace, which is also a sophisticated organisation, will understand this. Now, Greenpeace, as an ecological body, wants to argue that there are problems about development in the Arctic. That's a legitimate point. Whatever view one has about oil and the necessity of oil and carbon and the rest, that there is a delicate ecosystem in the Arctic, and you know they have legitimate grounds to be concerned about that. I think what has happened is
Alexander, let me jump in here, gentlemen. We have to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on Greenpeace. Stay with our team.
I see. I love it.
Comrades, soldiers, you're in the military now. No more joking anymore.
I've never been so tired in my life. Every day, we're being pushed to our absolute limits. Do you think it's gonna be easy? Fire! But everyone's desperate to prove that they belong with Russia's best of the best, the paratroopers. Honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the end.
Look, can you stop filming? Because I've got nothing left. I don't know what to do here.
Well, and they had an article about Greenpeace and Russia and the Arctic oil platform. And I must say that the article was rather pro-Greenpeace and very anti-Russia. And then I read the 70 or so comments at the end of the article. And my goodness, the article was very much out of touch with whoever wrote the article and the editorial line of that publication. A lot of people thought that Greenpeace has gone too far.
1970s. And I think it's true to say that it's always been controversial. An awful lot of people, both within and outside the ecological movement, are sceptical about some of the things that Greenpeace does. And I think some of the things that you probably saw, some of the comments you saw to that Daily Mail article reflect that. Having said that, it is, if you look, it has always seen...
It's a publicity stunt. They made sure there were many different kinds of nationalities on that operation to get maximum media effect. What do you think about this? I mean, because Greenpeace is doing this for publicity, obviously. To what degree it's doing it for science and environmentalism, we can discuss that. Go ahead.
Yes, well, Greenpeace is a direct action organisation. They've been doing these sort of things for a very, very long time, way back into the...
To Crosstalk Greenpeace, I'm joined by Alexander Mercouris in London. He is a writer on legal affairs and an analyst. And in Washington, we cross to Mark Morano. He is the publisher of Climate Depot and a former staffer of the U.S. Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. All right, gentlemen, crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want. Alexander, if I can go to you first in London. I was reading the Daily Mail a couple of days ago. Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Activism, politics in a cold place, and a whole lot of media publicity. What is Greenpeace all about today? Is it a smug and self-promoting bully or a brave environmentalist group? Opinions vary, and at the very center of the debate surrounding organizations such as Greenpeace is the question whether they have the right to operate outside the law.